got hit pretty badly, but that we got everything back. Got everything back, and nobody killed.
The next question is who's in charge of Venezuela right now? Have you spoken to the newly sworn-in president there, Rodriguez? And what are your thoughts on the entire situation? You said the U.S. would run Venezuela.
We're dealing with the people. We're dealing with the people that just got sworn in. And don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
We're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
No, I haven't, but other people
Do you want
have.
to?
Yeah, at the right time, I will.
Did the U.S. give Delcy Rodriguez any guarantees in exchange for cooperating with your administration?
No, but she's cooperating.
Are you going to demand free and fair elections in the short term in Venezuela?
Well, it depends. What you're talking. We have to do one thing in Venezuela, bring it back. It's a dead country right now. It's a country that, frankly, we would have been, if I had lost the election, we would have been a dead country. We would have been Venezuela on steroids. Venezuela right now is a dead country. We have to bring it back, and we're going to have big investments by the oil companies to bring back the infrastructure. And the oil companies are ready to go. They're going to go in, they're going to rebuild the infrastructure. We built it to start off with many years ago. They took it away. You can't do that. You can't do that with me. They did it with other presidents.
How soon do you think an election can take place in Venezuela? How soon can an election take place?
Well, I think we're looking more at getting it fixed, getting it ready first, because it's a mess. The country is a mess. It's been horribly run. The oil is just flowing at a very low level, much lower than, even if it was badly run, it should have more income, more oil than what they're doing. So we're going to have the big oil companies go in, and they're going to fix the infrastructure, and they're going to invest money. We're not going to invest anything. We're going to just take care of the country. We're going to cherish the country. We're going to take care, more importantly, of the people, including Venezuelans that are living in our country that were forced to leave their country. And they're going to be taken very good care of. Yes, ma'am.
Have you spoken with the oil companies about going into Venezuela?
Have you received any commitments? Any commitments from the oil companies?
We want to go in so badly.
Did you speak with them before the operation took place about, did you maybe tip them off about what was coming?
And they want to go in, and they're going to do a great job for the people of Venezuela. And they're going to represent us well.
What happens
But
to
the infrastructure is rusty, rotten, most of it unusable. It's old, it's broken. You see pipes laying all over the ground. Nothing's been invested for years. Chevron's in, as you know, they've done a good job, but even they haven't been in a position to invest money because they're at a month-to-month basis.
What happened, Mr.
They're
President?
only there because I wanted them to be there.
Yeah. Are there any contingencies in case the military in Venezuela is unhappy with the U.S. and the way it's running Venezuela? Do you guys have plans for anything?
So Venezuela thus far has been very nice, but it helps to have a force like we have. We were ready for a second wave. We were all set to go, but we don't think we're going to need it.
There's about $17 billion worth of oil reserves in Venezuela. Is that going to be?
You mean trillion?
And is that going to be
Did you
something?
say billion or trillion?
I said billion.
You said 17 billion? It's much more than that.
Okay, so what is going to happen to those reserves?
Well, we're going to run everything. We're going to run it, fix it. We'll have elections at the right time. But the main thing you have to fix, it's a broken country. There's no money. There's inflation. Like we would have had, if I didn't win this election, we would have been Venezuela on steroids. Lindsay would know that. You might say something on that because we were talking before. We would have had a doubling up of very bad things that cost us a lot of money, like welfare, frankly. We wouldn't have had jobs. And instead of having $18 trillion in, we would have had at least $5 to $10 trillion leaving the country. So our costs would have gone up, and all of the money we're setting a record. It's long broken. And that's it. That's after 10 months. We haven't included the 11th month yet. So we think we're going to hit over $20 trillion. The all-time record is 3 by another country known as China. About 10 years ago, they did 3. We're going to do close to 20 trillion. By the way, there has never been anything like this ever before. And it's all because of tariffs and the election, but it's because of tariffs.
There was a time.
Without tariffs, we wouldn't have 10 cents being invested.
There was a time back in 2016, I remember your RNC speech, and you were saying that regime change and nation building.
Where?
When you were speaking at the RNC back in 2016,
Go ahead, what did I say?
you were criticizing regime change and nation building, the U.S. being involved in that. It seems obviously that your stance has changed on that. What led to that? And is the U.S. nation building now? Is that
This isn't a country that's on the other side of the world. This isn't a country like where you have to travel 24 hours in an airplane. This is Venezuela. It's in our area. The Don Road Doctrine.
So is that what you would say, that we're in the business of nation building now?
We're in the business of having countries around us that are viable and successful, and where the oil is allowed to freely come out because that's good. It gets the prices down. That's good for our country. Now, we have a very sick neighbor. It's not a neighbor, but it's close to a neighbor, and that's Venezuela. It's very sick. Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
What does that mean? He's not going to be doing it very long.
He's not doing it very long. He has cocaine mills and cocaine factories. He's not going to be doing it very long.
So there will be an operation by the U.S. and
It sounds
Colombia?
good to me.
Secretary Rubio mentioned Cuba
They
yesterday.
kill a lot of people, yeah.
Secretary Rubio mentioned Cuba yesterday in his remarks. Does the U.S. have a plan to do similar action in Cuba?
Survive because of Venezuela. Now they won't have that money coming in. They won't have the income coming in. You know, a lot of Cubans were killed yesterday. You know that. A lot of Cubans were killed.
Do you know how many? Does the administration know?
But there was a lot of death on the other side. No death on our side. But there was a lot of death on the other side, unfortunately. But a lot of Cubans were killed yesterday, trying to protect him.
There's been protesters killed in Iran. You said we were locked and loaded, ready to go. What is the line there for when the U.S. is going to get involved in those protests?
We'll take a look. We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Is that
Something. So when he first got elected in January, we met, biggest comeback ever. We talked about
You think so, really? I didn't feel it was a comeback, actually.
So
Because the first one was...
the bottom line is
rigged.
we talked about a drug caliphate in our backyard. We had Venezuela, we have Cuba, we have Colombia in our backyard. And these three countries have been condemned ever since I've been in politics. Joe Biden put a $25 billion bounty on Maduro's head. Chris Smith, the day he got inaugurated, said, I hope Trump will hold Maduro's feet to the fire. You did. So what has he done? He's going to clear our backyard of a drug caliphate, countries run by narco-terrorist dictators who murder, rape, send drugs into our country to kill thousands of our citizens. To my Democratic friends, you should be celebrating this. When bin Laden went down, I was the first to applaud President Obama. This was one of the most sophisticated military operations in the history of the country. What they were able to do was amazing. They knew we were coming. We had a good part of the Navy, and they were able to capture this man alive. No military in the world could have done it. And as to this commander-in-chief, he did something people talked about doing. You just wait for Cuba. Cuba is a communist dictatorship that's killed priests and nuns. They've preyed on their own people. Their days are numbered. We're going to wake up one day, I hope in 26, in our backyard, we're going to have allies in these countries doing business with America, not narco-terrorist dictators killing Americans. This is a big frigging day. And everybody in the world is thinking differently than they were just a few days ago because of what you did.
Do you think you're
By the way, you mentioned something that's interesting. Lindsay mentioned bin Laden. I wrote about bin Laden 1 year before the attack on the World Trade Center. And I said, you got to go after bin Laden. It was in my book. And very few people want to say that, but it was in my book. You know that, I think. You've actually talked about it. But if they would have listened to me, they would have taken out bin Laden, and you wouldn't have had the World Trade Center tragedy.
Yeah, this is certainly going
Did you know that? I predicted bin Laden.
I learned something every day.
No, but did you hear that?
Well, I didn't know. I just heard it right
No,
now.
I wrote a book. It was 1 year before the attack that the book came out, and it talked about, there's a whole page, a whole section dedicated to a guy named Bin Laden, who's a bad guy who you have to take out.
So I'll get the book. But right after the election, he told me, I'm going to clean up our backyard. Now, this was before he took office. This is one of the president's priorities, is to make sure that people in our backyard, narco-terrorist states, will not continue to kill Americans without the number of people that will be alive today because Venezuela will be in different hands is going to be tens of thousands. This is something to be celebrated, whether you like him or not.
Not just Venezuela. It's what's coming out of Venezuela
Yes.
in the form of ocean-going and Gulf-going and sea-going boats. Every time we knock out a boat, and we've done a lot of them, we did 3 over the last few days. They're very rare now. You don't see too many of them.
Hard to recruit.
But drugs by sea are down 97%. Think of that. And now we're going to stop them by land, too. The land is easy. We had to do the sea before we did the land because it just works out.
Yeah, you were just talking about the land, but it sounded like you
And
weighed
by
out.
the way, you have to do something with Mexico. Mexico has to get their act together because they're pouring through Mexico, and we're going to have to do something. We'd love Mexico to do it. They're capable of doing it. But unfortunately, the cartels are very strong in Mexico.
I remember one time you actually, speaking of Mexico, I asked you about Claudia Sheinbaum, and you told me at one point you had offered to send U.S. troops into
Sure, I did.
Mexico to combat drug trafficking there. Is that something you have
Well, I
spoken
like
to her
Claudia.
about?
I think she's a terrific person. I would say every single time I talk to her, I offered to send troops.
And she's just not willing?
She's concerned. She's a little afraid. The cartels are running Mexico. Whether you like it or not, it's
Like
not
it or
nice to
not.
say, but
It's
the
a fact.
cartels are running Mexico.
Yeah, speaking of those U.S. troops, I mean, one thing that Americans and a lot of people are wondering, you just sounded like you weighed out another strike, another land strike at least in Venezuela. You sound like you weighed that out. But
Well, we didn't need it.
but-
We were prepared to do a second strike if we needed. We're totally prepared.
But that's off
We're
the
still
table.
prepared.
That's off the table now.
No, it's not. If they don't behave, we will do a second strike.
Will you demand
The
that the
question is
Venezuelans
that the American troops, are they going to be on the ground? They're doing any kind of peacekeeping? I think Americans are very...
It depends on what happens. It depends a little bit on the new administration, if you want to call it
So
that.
if you see that pushback from Rodriguez and ultimately...
Well, I don't think there was pushback. I think that
She called it...
Well, you hear a different person than I hear.
Really? So you have spoken with her?
We talked to them, yeah.
Oh, you did speak with her?
They've been very good.
Because she called it kidnapping of Maduro.
It's all right. It's not a bad term. Go ahead.
Now, are you going to demand that Delcy Rodriguez let opposition figures return or free any political prisoners?
We haven't gotten to that yet. Right now, what we want to do is fix up the oil, fix up the country, bring the country back, and then have elections.
Now, is it fair?
We better bring the country back. Otherwise, you're gonna have a mess that's so bad. It was really bad. It's going to get a lot worse unless we go in and fix it.
Is the U.S. going to reopen its embassy in Caracas or get the DEA?
We're thinking about it. We've been asked to do it.
You
We've
had...
actually been asked to do it.
Do you think
You had Putin and on the phone, of course, and then Zelensky at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
You told me that
Numerous times.
You told me that your New Year's resolution was peace on earth. Do you think that 2026, if you could set a deadline of when the Russia-Ukraine
I don't
war...
do deadlines, but I would say that, like as an example, Thailand and Cambodia.
Well, where
I
does
was
it-
very
where does it
proud of that.
actually
Wait a minute.
stand
And they
between
started
Russia-
up again and they got it solved.
Where does it
I
actually
give myself
stand?
1/4 of a point for that. So now I'm 8 1/4 points because they started up Thailand and Cambodia and now it's okay.
So where does it actually stand between Russia
I
and
think we'll have a
Ukraine
deal
right now?
at some point, hopefully in the not too distant. So I don't know if you saw the numbers just came out. 30,000 soldiers were killed this current month.
And there was that intelligence...
30,000. 27,000 the month before.
you and Senator Graham discussed additional Russia sanctions?
We discuss it all the time. There's nothing else I talk to him. I don't consider him very exciting to talk to, except when we're talking about legislation. And we talk about legislation all the time. You think that's an exciting relationship? It's not. But we talk a lot about legislation, and we have great legislation coming. You want to tell them?
So the tariff bill So here's what I believe. I don't think we could have secured the border without the threat of tariffs. I don't think we'd have a European trade deal without the threat of tariffs. So if you want to end this conflict, then put pressure on Putin's customers. He sanctioned the two largest oil companies in Russia, which is the biggest pressure anybody's put on Putin since the war started. But we have 85 co-sponsors to give this president...
It's hurting Russia very bad, the sanctions.
Oh, yeah. So this bill would allow...
And India also is bullied.
Yes, sir. So he put a 25% tariff on India for buying Russian oil. I was at the Indian ambassador's house about a month ago, and all he wanted to talk about is how they're buying less Russian oil. Would you tell the president to relieve the tariff? This stuff works. So I'm hoping we'll bring the bill up, and it's from 0 to 500. He picks the number. Nobody else does. But if you're buying cheap Russian oil, keeping Putin's war machine going, we're trying to give the president the ability to make that a hard choice by tariffs. I really do believe that what he did with India is the chief reason India is now buying substantially less Russian oil. So I hope we pass this bill soon. And after this...
They wanted to make me happy, basically. He wanted to... Modi's a very good man.
Yes.
He's a good guy. He knew I was not happy, and it was important to make me happy. They do trade.
Yeah.
And we can raise tariffs on them very quickly, and it would be
People are
very
afraid
bad
of that.
for them.
All of that to say, you told me you weren't very thrilled.
And I'll tell you something, the Russian economy is lousy, but what's really lousy is the Venezuelan economy. The Venezuelan economy is, I think, the worst economy I've ever seen. If you look at inflation, things are doubling every day.
Stolen line.
It's a disaster. We got to fix the country fast.
President Trump, are there going to be any more? You said the oil companies are going to go in there. Are there any other companies that you've talked to about dealing with Venezuela? Maybe Mr. Lutnick could talk about that. Are there any other corporations, entities outside of oil?
Outside of the oil business.
Like who?
Well, the oil business, yes, but outside, yes. Howard, you want
So
to
you have steel, you have minerals, right? All the critical minerals. They have a great mining history that's gone rusty. So steel, aluminum, minerals, I mean, this is all, it's a rich, it was once upon a time one of the great economies and cultures of the world, and it was destroyed, and now President Trump is going to fix it and bring it back for the Venezuela.
But it's not easy. It's really gone bad.
Any rare earth
But it's got potential.
What? Maybe any rare earth minerals?
Rare earth, but everybody has rare earth. Rare earth is not rare. What's rare is the processing.
We got
We're
almost
doing
all that.
processing plants. There's no such thing as rare earth. The rare earth is everywhere. What isn't everywhere is the processing of rare earth, and we have a lot of places going up right now.
One thing we haven't heard you specifically react to is the Minnesota fraud that we've seen play out.
Well, it just doesn't get worse. I've reacted. It's almost not even believable. This very stupid, low IQ governor, he's a very stupid man, because, you know, I had a campaign against him with JD, and he's a stupid man, and he's a corrupt politician, and the Somalians are ripping off our country to the tune of, looks like $19 billion, but that's only what they can find. So usually when you're looking at 19, that would mean it could be 50, but the numbers are astronomical. Think of it. They have a dead country. They don't have government. They don't have anything. They don't have a military. All they do is run around shooting people and trying to capture ships. You know, we don't let them take ships anymore. You know why? We use the same exact missile on them that we use on the drug carriers. And it's very effective.
So
You notice there's nobody capturing ships anymore? Because as they head out to go capture the ship, and the ship doesn't want to fire back because it's very flammable stuff in many cases. And the insurance companies don't want, because they build $1 billion ship, and they don't want anybody firing rockets into the ship. But we're hitting them so hard, and it's very similar. Same missile system. It's called Deadly Accurate. And do you notice that ships aren't being taken anymore? The pirates are.
That's right. I hadn't thought about
The
that.
pirates aren't. Well, no.
No Somali pirates.
It's actually very easy. They head out. We say, guess what? There's pirates. Bing. That's the end of the pirates. The shipping business is coming back because See, these are little things that we're doing. And I'm doing it not just for American ships, I'm doing it worldwide. Because we don't want ships taken by Somalia pirates. But what they are doing is they're stealing money from the American taxpayer. And every one of them should be forced to leave this country, including Ilhan Omar, who's a total crook. And she's one of the leaders of it. Not the only, because she's not that smart. But think of it. $19 billion at least they've stolen from Minnesota and from the United States. It's actually more from the United States because Minnesota puts in, and we're not going to pay it anymore. We're going to have Waltz go pay. We're not going to pay them, and we're not going to pay California, and we're not going to pay Illinois with that big slob of a governor that they have that doesn't want, you know, we brought down crime by 25%. He didn't do anything. He's not doing anything. But they want us to leave. He had a day where they had 17 murders not too long ago. 17 murders and 77 people shot. But 17 died. And then he talks about, oh, we can handle it. He can't handle it. But we pull back and we'll go in at the appropriate time. But we're the ones that brought the crime down. We brought it down 20%. They didn't bring it down. Pritzker didn't bring it down. Same thing with Gavin Newsom. If we didn't go in to Los Angeles 7 months ago when they had the riots, even the police commissioner, the head of the police, said if we didn't have the federal government go in, we would have lost total control of the city of Los Angeles, and they would have had to cancel the Olympics.
Sir, you said this. The National Guard, you pulled out the National Guard out of Portland.
We did.
In Los Angeles.
And you know what? Do you know that Portland, we got it down to almost no crime? Do you know that? But we pulled it out. We had a Supreme Court decision. We can go back. We're allowed to go back in. But we'll go back in when the crime starts. Look, the crime will soon start because they now know that we're out. And at the appropriate time, we'll go back in. And we may, if we're allowed to. The most powerful thing we haven't used the Insurrection Act.
You're considering using the Insurrection Act?
I've always considered it, but we haven't needed it anywhere. 48% of the presidents of this country have used it. Bush used it, I think, 22 times or something. You know that, right? I mean, Bush the elder.
What are your short-term next 2 weeks? What do you need from Delcy Rodriguez? You've threatened Delcy.
Total access. We need total access. We need access to the oil and to other things in their country that allow us to rebuild their country.
What other things?
A lot of things. Roads that aren't built, bridges that are falling down. Yeah, bridges that are falling down, nobody can go anywhere.
And on Greenland,
What, Greenland now?
Yeah, on Greenland.
How did we come up to Greenland?
So, do you expect to take an action against Greenland?
Well, I don't want to talk about Greenland. Talk about Venezuela, Russia, Ukraine, and we'll worry about Greenland in about 2 months. Let's talk about Greenland in 20 days.
On Venezuela, we talked so much about energy.
By the way, I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you.
Sir, what would the justification be? Sir, what would the justification
to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true.
Sir,
they thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland? What would the justification be?
I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it, and they know that.
I think there's some confusion
that the
about
operation in Venezuela will affect your relationship with Xi Jinping in China.
No, I don't think so. I have a very good relationship. We have the power of tariffs, and he has other powers on us.
Are you still planning to travel to see him in April?
Yeah, I'll be going in April.
I think there's some confusion from Americans and maybe the community in the world when it comes to what you said about Rodriguez earlier today in a phone interview. You said that she would face the same fate, if not worse, than Maduro. But it sounds like you're talking to her on the phone and wanting to work with her.
My people, it's
and
the
you
same thing.
are considering her in power. Can you just clarify where you stand on Delcy Rodriguez right now?
I don't have to tell you. I just say that she will face a situation probably worse than Maduro, because Maduro gave up immediately.
So she could also
he raised
be captured.
his hand, he gave up, and he did the right thing, but he gave up. So we were so effective, and it was so fast and violent. It was very violent, but we were so effective. He raised his hands, he gave up.
What was the most violent moment during
I don't
the
want
raid?
to tell you.
Did you get a briefing?
Bad moments. There was some very violent. I don't want to.
Did you get a briefing at all on Maduro's first night in U.S. custody, and what can you tell us about that?
On every aspect of it, but I don't think it's appropriate to talk to the press about it. You'll find out.
When it comes to him in court tomorrow, I mean, what's the end game here with Maduro? Does he just rot in a
We're just
U.S.
going to go
prison?
through a slog of a trial. The judge is very respected, Judge Hellerstein. He's a highly respected judge. We'll see how we do. The case it's infallible. People are so happy with what we've done. You go down to Miami, you go down to a lot of places, and they're all dancing in the streets of this country. Now, he was a rough man. Killed millions of people. He killed millions and millions of people.
After he stands
Can I just say something? We got that. This is a good thing, not a bad thing. President Biden put a $25 billion bounty on the guy's head. Why? Because he was a horrible criminal, murderer, poisoning our people. Every administration has been saying he's a threat to our country. He's a bad guy. This is the first guy that's actually done something about it. Here's the story for me. He could be in Turkey today, but he's in New York. So if you tell people in Cuba, you need to stop being a communist dictatorship threatening America, you should go somewhere else. You better take the offer. Maduro has nobody to blame but himself. He gave him a way out. He chose to defy Trump and the U.S. military, and his ass is in jail where he deserves to be, and every president has said the same thing, but he did it.
One of the things that is happening, and I think you see it all the time, Howard, you've seen it, that Cuba is ready to fall.
Yes.
Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it. And Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
Marco Rubio has really had your ear, it seems, throughout this entire process. I know that Vice President Vance was just down the street when this whole operation was playing out, but would you say that Marco Rubio has your ear more than the Vice President right now?
No, they both do. No. JD's very smart, doing a great job, and so is Mark. No, both.
It sounds like
I would say equal.
The go-to, and you were just talking about Cuba and what could come next there. Are you considering U.S. action in Cuba?
We're not. I think it's just going to fall. I don't think we need any action. It looks like it's going down. It's going down for the count. You ever watch a fight?
I have.
They go down for the count. And Cuba looks like it's going down. What do you think, Howard?
It's going down. They've lived off of Venezuela, right? The economics were all Venezuelan, right? That's why you said the protective force of Maduro was Cuban, right? They were Cuban guards. So they were just paying Cuba when that money stops.
Don't hire him in the future.
Yeah, they weren't very good.
People from our country who were forced to come over, they really didn't want, they were from Cuba. People from different countries like to stay in those countries, whatever, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And people want to go back to Cuba, and they want to work in Cuba, but Cuba's going down for the count. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, is Elon Musk back in the fold? You had dinner with him last night at Mar-a-Lago.
Elon's great. I say about Elon, he's 80% super genius and 20% he makes mistakes. But he's a good guy. He's a well-meaning person.
Can I ask you about one more thing that I've been wanting to ask you the last couple of days? You said that you were very angry.
Got a lot of questions.
I do have a lot of questions.
Tell him who you're with. Go ahead.
I'm with News Nation. My name's Libby D. So you said that you were really very angry with the Ukrainian President Zelensky if he was the one who conducted that strike on Putin's residence.
I don't believe that strike happened.
Right. So Putin had said in that phone call to you that strike happened. You came out and said that, and you believed Putin. And there was some criticism.
There is something that happened fairly nearby, but had nothing to do with this.
Why did you believe Putin in that moment and then go say that about Ukraine?
Because nobody knew at that moment. I mean, that was the first I heard about it.
So why not
He said that his house was attacked. We don't believe that happened, as it, now that we have been able to check.
Yeah.
But that was the first we ever heard about it. We just hope that Russia and Ukraine get it settled.
Amen.
It's costing us nothing. In fact, we make money because unlike Biden gave $350 billion, gave it away. Now, I got a lot of it back because we did a rare earth deal going into rare earth. And we're going to get a lot of that money back, maybe all of the money, maybe more than all of the money. But we get paid now whenever we send anything, they pay. So this isn't an economic thing for us. This is a soul. This is a situation where on average 25,000 souls, 25,000 soldiers mostly, and some people from Kiev and different cities, but a very small number by comparison. But 25,000 to 30,000 soldiers are being killed every single month. And they're not from America, they're from Russia, and they're from Ukraine. And if I could get it stopped, I'd like to get it stopped. And I think we will. Thank you very much, everybody.
You've talked about returning some control to American companies. Did that play at all into your decision to capture Maduro?
What really played is the fact that he sent millions of people into our country from prisons and from mental institutions and drug dealers and every drug addict in that country, in his country, was sent into our country. Think of that. Every single drug addict from Maduro's country, which isn't really his country, and it's certainly not his country anymore. Every drug addict and every drug dealer has been sent into our country. Now, we're getting them back, but it's a very laborious job to get them back. Very hard job to get. And, of course, we're not getting a lot of good backup from certain judges, from certain radical left. But we're doing well on appeals because the people doing the appeals, seems that the judges are much more sane. What these super radical left judges are doing to our country, it's incredible. But if you take a look, Maduro sent hundreds of thousands and even millions of people from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, drug dealers, drug addicts, everybody. He sent anybody with a problem to it. It could never be forgiven. And other countries have done the same, but nothing like Maduro's done.
During the campaign, you talked about ending American foreign intervention. What changed your mind with Venezuela? What kind of grew your interest there?
The fact that he sent drugs into our country. We're stopping it rapidly with what we're doing with the sea, because they come in, a lot of it comes in by sea, but it's not coming. The drugs coming in, as I said before, by sea are down 97%. You should be saying, thank you very much, President Trump. Great job. Now they can't get anybody to pilot those boats. It's 97%. I'm trying to figure out who are the other 3%.
What's your response? What's your response to supporters who voted for you, who may be glad and relieved to see Maduro in custody, but may be worried about a forever war with Venezuela?
The voters that voted for me are thrilled. They said, this is what we voted for.
So let's just think about it. What is the right response when a country sends in tens of thousands of people to overwhelm your system? When a country is a narco-terrorist state that floods your country with cocaine, that's aligned with Hezbollah, what's the right response? You blow up the boat before they get here. You take down the source of the problem. President Trump didn't wake up one day and say, hey, let's take Venezuela. He did what other people talked about, but didn't have the balls or the guts to do it. This is a good thing. This is not interventionism. This is making America safer. We're going to be more prosperous because of the business deals. There are going to be Americans alive today because he shut down a narco-terrorist state called Venezuela. This is a good thing, not a bad thing.
And the oil companies are going to go in and rebuild their system. They're going to spend billions of dollars, and they're going to take the oil out of the ground, and we're taking back what they sold. Remember, They stole our property. It was the greatest theft in the history of America. Nobody has ever stolen our property like they have. They took our oil away from us. They took the infrastructure away. And all that infrastructure is rotted and decayed. And the oil companies are going to go in and rebuild it. We're not going to spend very much money at all, if anything. But the oil companies are going to go, we're going to take our oil back. But we're going to also do things that, when you look at what he did, the drugs are terrible, but also terrible. He sent hundreds of thousands of people into our country that should not be here. And that means from prisons. That means Tren de Aragua, the gang, Tren de Aragua, that comes out of Maduro's country. He was very friendly with that gang. Well, they're having a hard time right now. You know, we had Tren de Aragua all over Washington, D.C., and they got the hell beat out of them. Washington, D.C. is the safest city right now in the United States. Thank you very much,
Mr. President,
everybody.
if you had to sum up Operation Absolute Resolve, would you say that it was about oil or it was about regime change?
It's about peace on earth.
How is it peace on earth?
Peace on earth. We got to have peace. It's our hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine was very important when it was done, and other presidents, a lot of them, they lost sight of it. I didn't. I didn't lose sight. But it really is. It's peace on earth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
President Trump with a lengthy press conference aboard Air Force One there. I'll recap some of it. And again, the reason why it's audio only is because when they do these press gaggles aboard Air Force One, they do film them, but they will usually not be able to feed the video back until the plane lands. So instead, what they do is, while the plane is still in the sky, they feed us the audio only. So that's why we were just listening into the audio there. It sounded like he was with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Among other things, of course, he was asked a lot about Venezuela. He was asked about his past statements against regime change and nation building. Trump there saying, this is Venezuela. It's our area. He talked about the quote-unquote Don Roe doctrine, a play on words of the Monroe Doctrine. He says he's in the business of having countries around that are viable and successful, where the oil can come out. He was asked about Delcy Rodriguez. She's the former vice president, now the acting president, interim president in Venezuela. He earlier today said that Rodriguez would pay a big price if she doesn't do what's right. He was asked about that during that exchange. President Trump said she will face a situation probably worse than Maduro, because Maduro gave up immediately. In fact, he said something that I don't believe we've heard yet. He said that Maduro did put his hands up when U.S. forces raided his home during that overnight military campaign. We also heard him talk about Greenland. He said he didn't want to talk about it for 20 days. But he also said that the European Union, European countries, know that it's in their best interest for the U.S. to take possession of Greenland, although, again, Trump said he didn't want to talk about it. He'd rather talk about it in 20 days. We will, of course, bring you the video of that extended press conference when we have it available to us. We do not have it at the moment. We'll let you know when it is fed into the newsroom. A live look at the White House just past 8:30 in the nation's capital. I'm Austin Westfall. Our coverage continuing in a moment.
Prepare yourself, because it's time to duel.
Welcome to my laboratory.
You're invited as Bridget, Julia, and the rest of the gang explore new recipes and cooking techniques.
Go. Nice.
Plus new science, gadgets, ingredients, and equipment.
The Anker's room unseated the KitchenAid.
Join the party. It's the 25th anniversary season of America's Test Kitchen.
Prost. Prost.
I'm Anthony Bourdain. I write, I travel, I eat, and I'm hungry for more.
Nice. We're not even eating yet. It's good.
How would you like us to be remembered?
For blowing crap up.
Bye-bye.
$1 million.
Open the cage!
These are big, pressing decisions. Deal or no deal.
By the way, it's worth mentioning that during that audio press conference, we heard President Trump threaten Colombia and say that they very much could be within the United States' sights, especially in light of what we saw in Venezuela. Trump with a few choice words for Colombia, who he says themselves have something to do with trafficking cocaine here stateside. That's certainly a thread that we're going to have to follow. I believe he was asked point blank if it's possible that there would be some sort of military activity in Colombia. The president not exactly dismissing the idea. That's something that we'll have to track moving forward. Colombia, of course, right next to Venezuela. A number of boats have been struck in the Eastern Pacific. All those boat strikes, they have not just been in the Caribbean. They've also been in the Eastern Pacific, closer to Colombia as well. So much that we've been tracking here at Live Now. Live look at the White House. The time just past 8:30 in the nation's capital, just past 9:30 in Caracas. We've still got our live vantage point of Caracas, where we've been watching most of the day and really listening in to hear what authorities there in Caracas are saying about the future of their government. There's still a lot of questions as to where things go from here. Let's get the latest wrap from Fox's C.B. Cotton.
After being processed at a federal facility in New York City, ousted Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro remains behind bars at a Brooklyn detention center. He's expected to be arraigned Monday afternoon on narco-terrorism and other drug and weapons charges.
The United States government has traced various accounts in foreign banks, and they've always alleged that Maduro is at the head of a drug cartel that's pouring drugs into the country.
Maduro is charged alongside his wife, Celia Flores, his son, and 3 others. The unsealed indictment accuses them of partnering with violent gangs and drug cartels to help flood the U.S. with, quote, thousands of tons of cocaine. Prosecutors say Maduro used the drug smuggling scheme to line the pockets of his family and top allies.
When a group of foreigners are engaged in an activity that's directed against the United States, that can both be, at the same time, illegal activity that subjects them to our legal process, but also it can be a national security threat.
The Trump administration says intelligence members spent months tracking Maduro's movements down to what he ate and what he wore before special forces captured him. But across the country, some people protested the decision to carry out the surprise raid.
We're here to say not in our name, not in the name of American working people. We do not want another war.
This case builds upon the one brought against Maduro back in 2020. At that time, he denied all the charges. In Brooklyn, New York, C.B. Cotton, Fox News.
So we've been tracking reports from our news wires and other affiliates as we not only follow Venezuela, but also some of President Trump's remarks about Greenland, Cuba, Colombia, and the like. President Trump basically said that the government of Cuba is in a lot of trouble. During that press conference that we just watched, he said that U.S. military activity wouldn't be necessary. He says he wouldn't be surprised if Cuba simply fell. Also, with thinly veiled threats, Trump has rattled the hemispheric friends and foes that he has. It's spurring a question around the globe. Will there be anyone next? He was not shy about thinly veiled threats to Colombia as well during that presser. Trump, in his administration's national security strategy, which was published last month, laid out restoring American preeminence in the Western Hemisphere as a central guidepost for his second go-around in the White House. Trump has also pointed to the 19th century Monroe Doctrine. He's been calling it the Donroe Doctrine. The doctrine rejects European colonialism, basically is a justification invoked by the U.S. in supporting Panama's secession from Colombia, which helped secure the Panama Canal Zone for the United States. Trump has basically been living in Florida for the past 2 weeks during the holiday season. Now, we don't exactly know when he's going to be back at the White House. We haven't gotten official word yet that he's arrived, but we do expect that he'll be back in D.C. shortly. You see, you might notice in the background there, the Washington Monument is lit up with projections. That's to celebrate the nation's 250th birthday. July 4th of this year will mark the 250th anniversary of the United States. And President Trump, as part of the celebrations of the new year, said that for the first handful of days in the new year, there would in fact be projections lighting up the Washington Monument, which you can see a little bit of there. Again, we'll let you know as soon as we get video of Trump's Air Force One presser. We have not gotten word that he has landed in the D.C. area yet. Let's hit a quick break. Our coverage continuing in a moment.
This is insane.
I heard you guys. I thought, you know what? I'm going to scare the crap out of them like they did me.
This means everything to us. You never let the dream die.
We embrace our true identity and we deliver total non-stop action. This is the place to be and no one does it better, baby!
The world hears us. The world feels us.
It's as real as it gets!
This is TNA Wrestling.
John Crichton's mission sends him through a wormhole. And now, he's teamed up with a group of rebels fighting an intergalactic war. Farscape is streaming in HD and broadcasting throughout the galaxy.
Gordon Ramsay himself is going to be cooking our meals.
Jeff?
What are you guys doing here?
No.
I got a stadium with the greatest players of all time. Serena Williams, Aaron Judge, Cristiano Ronaldo, even David Letterman.
David Letterman!
Good luck. We actually got Madison Beard to go on a date with Nolan. How's the weather?
How's the weather?
All right, Tom, you can start trying.
Oh!
That happens so fast.
Watch the Monster Jam channel.
Don't go anywhere.
You're watching Monster Jam.
You're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. We did just get this live feed in. Presumably, this is Edwards Air Force Base. Oh, excuse me, not Edwards Air Force Base. Joint Base Andrews. I'm getting my coasts mixed up. I'm a Southern California guy. Joint Base Andrews, more than likely, where we expect that President Trump's Air Force One will land at any moment. You see some of those Marine One choppers lined up. Typically, the president lands at JBA and then transfers over to Marine One, where he will chopper over to the White House, the time in the nation's capital, approaching 8:45. Speaking of D.C., our friend Tom Fitzgerald over at Fox 5 in D.C. has a weekly show called On the Hill. I want to play the first portion of his broadcast today out. They mainly talk about Venezuela.
Welcome back to Fox 5's On the Hill. You know, the dramatic attack in Venezuela involved more than 150 U.S. military aircraft and was planned for months. The president says no American military personnel were injured in that operation and no aircraft were lost. What will it take for the United States to run the country in the interim? We want to welcome back in retired U.S. Army Major Mike Lyons. Mike, good to see you this morning. Walk us through this. How difficult is it to pull off something like this, to take Maduro out of his house, and by the end of the day yesterday, he's sitting in a New York cell?
Good morning, Tom. Just an incredible mission that we all thought was impossible, frankly. We watched this armada be assembled in the Caribbean over the past few months. I talked to multiple special operators over the past about what this looks like. How do you take him kinetically? How does this go? We didn't figure out any way to do this without high casualties or an actual invasion and boots on the ground. But what our special operators did was just incredible. 150 aircraft taking out their air defense platforms likely first, and then taking out the electricity and making the place dark, as you saw the president say, and then to go in with the precision. They used helicopters to go in, likely 75th Ranger Battalion on the ground there, protecting that fortress. I just can't. I find it hard to believe that he wasn't more protected, but the speed and the guile and the audacity of the special operators to kind of get in there, know exactly where to go and where exactly he was going to be, get him and then get him out on a helicopter, and the whole thing done in 2.5 hours. Just amazing. Only the United States country in the world can do this, and sends a tremendous signal to our adversaries and enemies alike.
Mike, what's next is a big question for a lot of folks right now. The president yesterday in his news conference made mention of perhaps U.S. military going in with U.S. oil companies as they try to reconstitute Venezuela's oil-producing capability. There's also been questions about how the U.S. would run Venezuela, as the president put it. Would a military occupation of Venezuela be feasible or even warranted?
I don't think it's feasible, and I don't think it's in the cards. The Army really hasn't been deployed yet to do something like this. I think, you know, the military can't do regime change. We've seen that in Iraq. We're not successful at it. But I do think you'll see the military as security forces with some of the petroleum and the oil refineries that the United States continues to looks to kind of take over and make sure that things are going and operating well as they bring in civilian plants in order to make sure they go. So I think that the military in itself won't have any occupation force. We didn't invade. I don't think that that's ever been on the cards. But you will likely see the military protecting some of the civilian assets that'll likely be showing up in Venezuela over the next few months. You know,
Mike, one of the lessons of Iraq was after Saddam Hussein was removed from power, there was a policy of what they call de-Baathification, where basically they removed all of Saddam's infrastructure of his government. Delcy Rodriguez, who is the vice president and now president of Venezuela, made a statement yesterday that did not sound cooperative with what the United States goals are here. Do we need a friendly interim president right now in place? And if not, how does that complicate the situation for U.S. military?
I saw her comments, and if she's not careful, she's going to wind up on the inside of a special operator helicopter here pretty soon as well. I think that the United States should have found and likely has people. This is not the same situation in Iraq. I think we have people on the ground there that can run the infrastructure and run things in that government. That was kind of totally different. Venezuela had an election that Maduro stole and had the beginnings and tenets of a democracy, and it has always been in that direction. So I think this is different than the Middle East. But we likely have people on the ground. I think they'll come out over the next few weeks that the CIA planned. This was a long-time mission. It took a year to put this in place, I think, not just the military aspect of it, but the covert side of it. So I do think that we've got people there that are going to be ready to run the industries and the ministries, which is what's more important as the government just shifts. It's not regime change, really, and we'll find somebody that's going to be on our side. Maybe Ruby even cut a deal with her in order to make sure she's on board, but we have to see.
Well, it was an amazing display of U.S. military might and ability as well, too. Retired U.S. Army Major Mike Lyons joining us live this morning. Mike, we thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, coming up, we're going to...
All right, that's one of the luxuries we have here at Live Now, is tapping into our sister stations across the country. Our thanks to Fox 5 DC and to Tom Fitzgerald, his weekly show. You can watch it there in the D.C. Metro on Sunday mornings. Let's get a live look at the White House. We anticipate that President Trump will be landing here shortly. We don't have any live feeds showing Joint Base Andrews, but we'll let you know if we do. It is time for us to take a quick break, though. Our coverage continuing in a moment.
Hey, what's up? It's 50 Cent. My channel, 50 Cent Action, is where you gotta be.
What's next? Something big, bold. Come on, best.
Come on, put him up. Watch my channel, 50 Cent Action.
Well, here he is, the Pink Panther, the Pink Panther. Everybody loves a panther that's pink. He really is a groovy cat, and he's a gentleman, a scholar, he's a acrobat. He's in the Pink Panther, the rink-eating panther. And it's as plain as your nose that he's the one and only truly original Panther Pink from head to toe.
Are we ready?
Oh, that's so good.
Oh, amazing. I absolutely love it.
This is the sort of food that makes you feel good just by looking at it.
There it is.
That is so good.
Super quick, super nutritious, and it will fill you up.
It's just one of those things you've got to taste.
What's going on?
Stan, take it easy. I need you to lay back.
I have to put my radar on high alert. Is there something that might have been missed by that first doctor?
You've had taste made in the palm of your hand. Now we're in your home, where the struggle becomes your victory.
It's pretty freaking delicious.
Now we're everywhere you need to be, where taste is made. Taste Made.
All right, you're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. That's going to do it for my time on the desk. Jay Russell coming up after me. While him and I switch out, we are going to play an interview that Hal Kemper and I had earlier today discussing everything you need to know so far about Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and the future for Caracas. Here's our discussion earlier this evening. Security analyst and host of the Strap podcast, Hal Kemper, joining me. Good to see you, Hal. A lot to discuss. It's been a busy Sunday morning as Secretary of State Marco Rubio has made the rounds on all the Sunday morning shows. That's something that Aaron and I were just discussing. One thing that is sticking out to me today is Delcy Rodriguez. President Trump is issuing a warning to Venezuela's new leader, Rodriguez. He was speaking to The Atlantic, Hal, saying that Rodriguez would pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro, if she fails to do what's right. He says that his administration is not going to tolerate defiance of U.S. intervention. And it's not just Rodriguez, Hal. Fox's Benjamin Hall says that there remains several top leaders in Venezuela who are aligned with Maduro. So how big of a problem do these types of people present? And it really does remain a problem for the U.S. in Caracas, does it not?
Austin, it's a huge problem. They're, you could call them the Maduro regime if you want, just minus Maduro, but it's a Maduro regime. It's also the Chavezistas, as they're called, for Chavez, who Maduro replaced as president. So they basically are aligned to the whole structure, the whole structure of corruption, of drug trafficking, of oil, of everything. And so they're looking at this. Of course, they're very concerned about the opposition because that would force them completely out and that would hit them on many different levels and they could end up in prison. But they're also looking at this as how are they going to work with the Americans and what can they get away with? You have to remember, under Maduro and Chavez, it was just fierce anti-American rhetoric that Chavez had seized when he was president, he had basically taken control over U.S. oil company assets. And I think it was like $11 billion in disputed assets. And President Trump has alluded to that. So they're looking at this and saying, if you have a pro-U.S. regime come in, they're going to want to get, that was an international court ruling that they're supposed to get reimbursed for those losses, which they haven't done. And there's a lot of other things. So they're very nervous about this. Now, I kind of sense that there was some communication with Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, who is now, according to the Supreme Court, the president, that they were either talking to her or talking to her brother, Jorge Rodriguez, who's the head of the National Assembly. I'm not clear which one, but it sounded like yesterday that President Trump had assumed that we had an arrangement worked out with Rodriguez. And of course, she has been pretty fierce in her of drug trafficking, of oil, of everything. And so they're looking at this. Of course, they're very concerned about the opposition because that would force them completely out and that would hit them on many different levels and they could end up in prison. But they're also looking at this as how are they going to work with the Americans and what can they get away with? You have to remember, under Maduro and Chavez, it was just fierce anti-American rhetoric that Chavez had seized when he was president. He had basically taken control over U.S. oil company assets. And I think it was like $11 billion in disputed assets. And President Trump has alluded to that. So they're looking at this and saying, if you have a pro-U.S. regime come in, they're going to want to get, that was an international court ruling that they're supposed to get reimbursed for those losses, which they haven't done. And there's a lot of other things. So they're very nervous about this. Now, I kind of sense that there was some communication with Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, who is now, according to the Supreme Court, the president, that they were either talking to her or talking to her brother, Jorge Rodriguez, who's the head of the National Assembly. I'm not clear which one, but it sounded like yesterday that President Trump had assumed that we had an arrangement worked out with Rodriguez. And of course, she has been pretty fierce in her rhetoric, condemning the U.S. action after Maduro was taken. And so he may be kind of wondering if maybe what he thought was the situation is not the situation, and looking at the rhetoric of others within the Maduro regime and wondering if there is actually somebody there we can work with.
One other big challenge here, and by the way, we've been looking at video of, and I think this was a speech he gave yesterday, not too long after the sun came up in Caracas. This is Delcy Rodriguez. She was Maduro's vice president. Now she's the interim leader of the country. What does Venezuela's opposition need to do to make the most of this transitional period, Hal? The opposition.
Well, the opposition's got a big challenge. Obviously, President Trump's comments about Machado weren't particularly great. Said that she didn't have a lot of confidence of the Venezuelan people. I think what he was really saying was that she doesn't have the confidence of the Venezuelan security apparatus, which is the police, the military, and the citizens militia. And I think what you're seeing here, and they haven't quite come out and said this, and they're definitely not going to come out and say we're doing nation building, because that would be political firestorm if they were to say that. But we are learning a lesson that came from Iraq. In Iraq, we went in and we did something that was very short-sighted for clear political reasons. We said, look, we're going to disband the military. We're going to disband the police forces because they're tied with the Baathists. The Baathists are bad, and we got rid of it. And that was a huge mistake, because what it led to was a degree of anarchy throughout Iraq, which basically fueled the insurgency and what we had to deal with for years afterwards. And certainly I can tell you that the prior CENTCOM commander, Tony Zinni, Marine Corps general, had always been very clear that if we ever have to do something like this, we keep their security apparatus in place because they're not great. They're not certainly not the folks you'd prefer to work with, but you kind of when you do something like this, you got to deal with whoever there, and you got to make the best of it. And he was always clear about that. And of course, when we did the exact opposite. I think we're learning from that, and we're trying to work with the existing security apparatus within Venezuela and the current governing apparatus within Venezuela, even if they're not, quote, legitimate, even if they're not a duly elected government, we're still trying to work with them.
Live look at the White House, the time in the nation's capital, just about 7:08. Let's talk about the world reacting to everything that's transpired in the past 48 hours, Hal. Let's start with some of the U.S.'s foes, if you will. Are China and Russia keeping tabs on how the U.S. is conducting business right now?
They're absolutely, and they were very condemnatory of this. In fact, they're going to the UN Security Council, and of course we have a veto on whatever's done there, as do some other countries. But they're going to take it up before the Security Council, and it's going to be a rather interesting rhetorical event, as I'm sure they're going to be condemning the U.S. for all these things. Which I have to tell you, for Russia to condemn the U.S. for something like this after what they did in Ukraine is truly is the height of hypocrisy. But they will be condemning our actions there because Maduro was very close to Russia, very close to China. 41%, I believe, of the oil from Venezuela actually went to China. So that was a big. They both have condemned it. Cuba has been very condemnatory. Cuba's nervous, so Cuba's got enormous macroeconomic problems. They've had hurricanes go through there causing massive devastation for which the government just simply has not been able to manage the recovery. They really weren't able to manage the response, but they certainly can't manage the recovery. And so Cuba's got huge problems. One of the things that was kind of bailing them out was cheap Venezuelan oil. And now that cheap Venezuelan oil isn't coming in. And there's real questions as to whether Cuba can actually function as a socioeconomic society. If they don't have any fuel, or oil coming in, how does Cuba continue? And could that trigger things that lead to a eventual government overthrow? I sense that Marco Rubio is looking at that and somewhat hopeful that it might trigger that because obviously he has very strong feelings about the Cuban regime. So they're very condemnatory. Right next door at Colombia. Now, Colombia has also been has been the recipient of some very harsh comments by the president. But they are looking at this. They've expressed great concern, but they said they're taking actions to secure the area along the border with Venezuela, but they haven't been quite as strident as, say, Cuba. North Korea has been obviously very condemnatory, not a surprise there. Iran has been very condemnatory. The European allies are kind of interesting, though.
National Security
60th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. That's a Army aviation regiment that supports special operations. So when they're coming in with those Delta Force troops, they can get in there. They got to get in there quiet. They got to hit the ground. They got to get into the facility, into the compound itself. And with that is a phenomenal amount of intelligence workup that has to be done. Everything that they're going to encounter, everything in and around Caracas, that quarter going in, the compound itself. And by the way, he moved from compound to compound, so they probably had to have multiple compounds that they did workups on, and those things they usually build a mock-up where the special operations troops will actually go through and go from room to room and practice clearing these things, so they have it kind of in their heads as far as what this particular site is supposed to look like, and then getting down to the detailed intelligence of who is standing where when they land. And you can imagine how challenging those requirements are to provide that sort of stuff. And of course, famously, it's kind of a, it's always been said for special operations, which is which way is the breeze going to be going? Do the neighbors have dogs in their yard? Do the dogs bark? You know, things like that. It gets very, very detailed in terms of what they need for these special operations. So they have to do all this. And then there's weather, there's enemy, there's terrain, there's urban terrain, there's lines of communication, roads, and everything else they have to look at. There's communications in general that they have to deal with, which was part of that. All those explosions around there was to destroy the command control communications capability of the Venezuelans during the raid, so they couldn't respond very quickly. They couldn't coordinate with their actions very effectively. And then, of course, you also heard it was delayed because of weather. And that's another big one, which is you have to have perfect weather. You don't have to have absolutely perfect weather, but you want to have the best weather you can in order to pull it off, because it's a very complex, difficult operation. And if there is any sort of difficult weather that you're going to contend with, that will play into it. And then you have to look at other things like, the moon phases and a variety of other things to make sure that you have what you need for the operation to be conducted.
Does the U.S. need to be in touch with someone very close to Maduro to pull something like this off?
That's a great question, and the speculation is that yes, we had that is. I've not heard it confirmed, but there's been enough said that we had pretty good information by someone who is very close to Maduro, and that's all I can say. I have no idea who it is, but that was kind of the speculation. In order to have the intelligence that we had, in order to pull this whole thing off, there is wide speculation that there was some source of intelligence that was very, very close to Maduro to know where he is at any given time. I mean, when they go in there at a particular time, they don't want to just know he's at the compound. They want to know what room is he in, where is his wife, where is his son, where are the guards, where is anybody else that's going to be there. There's a lot of information that goes into that, and they had some very, very detailed information. So the speculation is that there was probably a human source that was very close to Maduro. Of course, the other side of that too is you might want to put information like that out there, because then who's ever remaining is going to be looking around at each other and going, well, who dimed out Maduro? And they could do some things internally which will cause them greater disruption and a lack of cohesion, just trying to chase phantoms as to who they think the spy was.
Hal Kemper joining us today. Fascinating stuff. Hal is the host of the Strat podcast. You can listen to Strat anywhere podcasts are available. By the way, Hal, what's coming up on Strat?
Well, I'm going to be talking about Venezuela.
Shocker.
I know, it's really surprised. I'm going to be talking about Venezuela and talk about some of the implications and get a little bit more, probably more in depth than what we got here, but also talk about where are we going in the future, because there has been some talk about, the president has kind of alluded to, well, we might put boots on the ground or something like that. Well, Venezuela is a very big country, so I'm going to talk about that.
All right, Hal Kemper joining us. Double duty, both weekend days. We don't normally do this. Hal, good to see you.
Great to see you, Austin. Thanks.
All right. We've been
always appreciate Austin Westfall and also national security analyst Hal Kemper breaking down exactly what was going on over the past 48 hours in terms of Venezuela. What I want to do now is get you to some video. Just recently happened. President Trump making his way back over actually to Washington, D.C. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So this is President Trump just getting off of Air Force One. He is currently heading back to the White House. As we know right now, we just received this video a little bit earlier. As you heard from my colleague, Austin Westfall, had the audio on top of Air Force One. And as soon as we get that video, we will play that here in its entirety on Live Now for Fox. But as I said before, President Trump just getting off of Air Force One, heading over to Marine One, presumably right now going back to the White House. If we get any more interviews or if he speaks with the media, we will make sure to bring you that as it comes. But for right now, we're going to start off with our first 2-minute break of the hour. Again, my name is Jay Russell. I'll be with you for the next 2 hours, ending the night. 2 minutes, we'll be right back.
Why doesn't every home in the U.S. have brand new windows? The number one reason has nothing to do with sunlight or weather or even politics. It's just because most people don't know about this new window replacement program that can help them get beautiful brand new windows at an affordable price. They just assume that they'll have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to buy the windows, and then thousands more to have them professionally installed. But the truth is, if you use this window replacement program, you could get brand new windows on your house for much less. There are only a few requirements. 1, you must own your home. 2, you must have windows over 5 years old. And 3, you must live in an eligible zip code. The process is super simple. Just click the link on your screen and answer a few quick questions to see if you qualify for a quote from this program. But make sure to act quickly, because it may not be available for much longer.
This is Rise Sports Network, the home of champions, legends, and all the heart-pounding action in between. Every moment, every game, every victory. Tune in and feel the rush. Rise Sports Network.
It is our job to take you where others won't.
We were part of it.
Happy cooking. I'm starting to get anxiety because I want everything.
That is so good.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox. I'm Jay Russell. Thank you for sticking with us. As I said just before we went to break, President Trump has now landed back in Washington, D.C. This is a live look right now at the White House over in our nation's capital. It's just past the 9 o'clock hour. With us, we're following up on the new developments with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. It's now in U.S. custody. This is a look right now at Venezuela. I want to talk about what happens next in the American courtroom now as he comes back to the United States. Criminal defense attorney Benjamin Taylor joins us right now. I wanted to ask you, Benjamin, while you're on here, and thank you for being with us. I want to start simple. When someone like Maduro enters U.S. custody, what is the very first legal step that we're looking for now?
The very first legal step is this. Basically, he'll get the same rights as anybody here in America, any American citizen. So he'll get a right to an attorney. He gets a right to an arraignment. He can plead guilty or not guilty when he shows up to court. So ultimately, he can decide whether or not he wants to plead guilty in the future or actually go to trial on his case and fight this case. So ultimately, he'll be in the United States federal court jurisdiction, and he'll go from there.
You know, speaking about the United States federal court, when people hear federal court, they assume this moves really fast. But realistically, how quickly does this process really unfold?
I mean, most of the time, cases like this could take years to unfold. And ultimately, it's going to be up to Maduro to decide what he wants to do, too, and decide whether or not the U.S. government prosecutor decides to offer him any sort of plea agreement or to take him all the way to trial where he'll face the United States jury to decide whether or not he's innocent or guilty of these alleged terrorism crimes that he's been accused of. So ultimately, it's going to be like the same jury process that you see. You have jurors up there deciding whether or not he's innocent or guilty. You have testimony. He'll get assigned or appointed a defense attorney. Because he's an international person, that's where the international laws might come into play, but most likely is going to be federal court laws and a normal, trial, just like a normal case that you see every day. I could see him trying to say governmental immunity. He's a president, so he's going to try to allege that. But because he was indicted, so he had an indictment that was done in New York by members of our, United States New York citizens who decided that he must have allegedly done these crimes. So that's why he is being brought to New York under United States federal court. But yeah, this will take probably a year, maybe 2 or more years if they decide to go to trial, or he might decide to plead guilty prior to her.
You know, Maduro was the sitting president. Now, he was not the elected president, but nonetheless, does that change how he's treated legally right now. I think that was a big question as well, as somebody coming over from another country and now coming to the United States. I think that's one of the biggest questions Americans are asking right now.
Yes, that's where a lot of people are, are a little bit confused. When you have somebody overseas who's a president, do foreign laws, international laws come into effect? And there's this thing called governmental, immunity. Sometimes diplomats have immunity, meaning that they commit a crime in another state or another country. That means they can go free. So a lot of the defense is going to be that, saying, hey, judge, this person, Maduro, should have, foreign governmental immunity, that he's a president. He shouldn't be prosecuted here in the United States. So that's going to be a question to see whether or not the federal judge will believe that argument, because I'm sure Maduro's attorneys are going to try to make that argument to say that he shouldn't be even here. But the prosecutor is going to say, well, he was indicted, he allegedly committed these crimes, and he should be here. And other people in our United States, Manuel Noriega, back in the 90s, from Panama, this very similar thing happened to him. A person ruling another country was brought back to the United States and prosecuted under our federal United States law. So this is not uncommon. We have seen this before in the past, and I will predict that this is going to move forward in a federal court like a normal process.
I was just looking that up before I came in, because it was a little bit before my time, but I wanted to do my research on that. As you were just speaking about that, Manuel Noriega, the former military leader in Panama, I know from a legal standpoint, it seems like it's going to be the same thing. And when I had looked it up, I saw that he had came here to the United States. He had spent almost 2 decades in a federal prison here, and then he went out to France, and then that's when he passed away, basically answering for his crimes that are out here. Do you think that that's a fair comparison, that it could play out exactly how it did in the past, or do you see anything that's different in this case?
I mean, of course, there's different countries, but both of them were leaders of their country, and both of them were not in the United States, and both of them were brought in to the United States. Of course, Manuel Noriega, he was prosecuted in Florida. This is Maduro is being prosecuted in New York. So that's the main difference. But they both will be prosecuted under United States law. So that's where a lot of people are trying to say, is this legal to do this? And to tell your viewers, yes, this has been done in the past. It may not make any sense, really, but under our laws in the United States, if somebody commits terrorism against us or alleged terrorism against the United States, we can bring people in here and prosecute them under our United States courts.
Something else that pointed out to me as well is I know that he most likely is going to be appointed. We apologize. We need to hop out of that interview with criminal defense attorney Benjamin Taylor. And let me go ahead and get you to President Trump right now, as he was speaking on Air Force One a little bit earlier.
Hi, Mr. President. Have you spoken with any of the U.S. service members who were injured during that operation in Venezuela?
Yes, we have calls into them. I don't want to speak. They're all in good shape.
Can you detail what watching that was like when all this played out in Venezuela and what Maduro was doing that moment?
Well, I knew the possible danger. It was a very dangerous operation. It was amazing that we had a few injured, but all are in good shape right now. But I knew there was great danger. He got off a helicopter. The helicopters were being shot at. They got on the ground with amazing talent and tremendous patriotism, bravery. The bravery was incredible. Let's say they got off the helicopter and the bullets were flying all over the place. As you know, one of the helicopters got hit pretty badly, but then we got everything back. And nobody killed.
The next question is, who's in charge of Venezuela right now? Have you spoken to the newly sworn-in president there, Rodriguez? And what are your thoughts on the entire situation? You said the U.S. would run Venezuela.
We're dealing with the people. We're dealing with the people that just got sworn in. And don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
We're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
We're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
No, I haven't, but other people.
Do you want to?
At the right time, I will.
Did the U.S. give Delcy Rodriguez any guarantees in exchange for cooperating with your administration?
No, but she's cooperating.
Are you going to demand free and fair elections in the short term in Venezuela?
Well, it depends. What you're talking. We have to do one thing in Venezuela: bring it back. It's a dead country right now. It's a country that, frankly, we would have been if I had lost the election, we would have been a dead country. We would have been Venezuela on steroids. Venezuela right now is a dead country. We have to bring it back, and we're going to have big investments by the oil companies to bring back the infrastructure. And the oil companies are ready to go. They're going to go in, they're going to rebuild the infrastructure. You know, we built it to start off with many years ago. They took it away. You can't do that. You can't do that with me. They did it with other presidents.
How soon do you think an election can take place in Venezuela? How soon can an election take place?
Well, I think we're looking more at getting it fixed, getting it ready first, because it's a mess. The country is a mess. It's been horribly run. The oil is just flowing at a very low level, much lower than, even if it was badly run, it should have more income, more oil than what they do. So we're going to have the big oil companies go in, and they're going to fix the infrastructure, and they're going to invest money. We're not going to invest anything. We're going to just take care of the country. We're going to cherish the country. We're going to take care, more importantly, of the people, including Venezuelans that are living in our country that were forced to leave their country.